Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Property with me, Holly, and Fine Country. Today I'm in Norfolk, where I'm here to meet Otis Ingrams, who is the founder of OTZI. Now, OTZI is a British studio based right here in Norfolk, and they craft leather and wood goods for the home. They have actually staged this impressive Fine Country property behind me, and we're going to see what they've managed to create a little bit later. But first of all, I'm going to head to their studio over in Norwich to meet Otis for myself. Well, Otis, thank you very much for letting me disrupt what looked like quite a focused session this morning. It's great to meet you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much for coming.
So give me a bit of an elevator pitch. What is and who are OTZI?
So OTZI is a workshop and design studio based in Norwich, in Norfolk, with a focus on natural materials, specifically leather and wood. We make high-end furniture and leather interiors for the design and interior industry. And we make everything up by hand in our workshop.
Yeah, and we're in the said workshop now, and I definitely want to kind of get into it and see the inner workings of everything that goes on, because I know everything's very bespoke and there's lots of interesting materials and things in here. But before we do see anything, let's learn a little bit about you. So how did the business come to be? Where did it all start for you with leather?
So I guess I started at university doing leather work. I just found it incredibly interesting, and then as I spent more time with it over the years, I ended up going to work at a leather workshop in London, a place called Bill Amberg's, and then from there I just started trying to create my own different designs and work in the industry. It's quite a varied industry, and I then ended up writing a leather workbook, which was a 20 project book, which ended up being published in 7 languages. And then during COVID, we moved up to Norfolk from London, and I was like running around different workshops in London over the years, and it was just getting harder and harder, and so I wanted to find somewhere I could really set up properly. And then that's when I started working with my wife, Isabel, and we started doing some larger projects. Our biggest one was when we started working for Chloe, and we ended up doing a lot of the furniture for their showrooms around the world. So we ended up doing about 150 pieces for them. And then from that, we put everything into the business and we set it up as OTZI proper, not just myself. And so from there, we've grown to a team of 6. So we've got 2 leather workers and 2 woodworkers, fantastic craftspeople. And so we're sort of developing our own skill set and our own kind of unique style. With a focus on traditionally tanned leathers, which a lot of people don't normally use or kind of come into contact with, and we do that all with locally sourced British hardwood materials that all come from managed woodlands around the UK.
Brilliant. And you said there that you've got quite a small team, and I guess that helps you to be really bespoke, doesn't it? Because you can train everyone up to create things exactly how you would have liked them to be crafted, and that kind of adds to that luxury element, doesn't it? Yeah,
well, I mean, also everyone brings their own skill set. Like, none of us are actually really classically trained, which I think is quite interesting, and it means that people bring in lots of different parts of their making stories with them.
Yeah.
And that leads to like really nice discussions when we're trying to design new pieces. And the nice thing about being a small team is that we can be very reactive. We can work really closely with clients if they want that bespoke element. Or it means on like a larger project, we can kind of rapidly prototype pieces and really get them to finish without having to be kind of bogged down with anything else.
Yeah, and you mentioned a little bit earlier that a lot of the materials you used did you say they were sourced locally?
Well, yeah, so a lot of our timber is actually sourced from a kiln dryers and forestry place in Suffolk, but a lot of that timber will have come from around the UK.
Yeah. And I know sustainability is sometimes a bit of a buzzword, especially in like this kind of industry, but are you guys big on your sustainability as well? Do you make use of all of your materials and things?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like leather we believe is an inherently sustainable material. The hide is never extracted, from the meat industry for the hide. It's always taken as a byproduct.
Yeah.
So you're taking something that is effectively would just be going in the bin and would take a lot of energy to dispose of it properly and safely, and what you're doing is you're like converting it to totally different material and a material that you can get decades of use out, and it's an incredibly lovely material to use.
Yeah.
And so we believe that from that point it's like one of the most sustainable materials to use. Timber is probably the most sustainable material, especially when it's sourced responsibly. And so really provenance is at the heart of our material choices. We're a material-led workshop. And so we spend a really long time thinking about the materials we use, and we only use the best materials we can get our hands on. And quite often those are the ones that have just taken a really long time to develop. And so the leather we use, quite often it takes a year to tan that leather, just that piece.
Wow.
The drying process of the wood, it can take 3 to 5 years. So you might have to have 2 or 3 years air drying the wood, and then it gets finished off in a kiln for a further 6 months. So by the time we've got the materials on the table, they've already had like half a decade in the making sometimes. And so really all we're trying to do is preserve the inherent beauty and labour that's gone into those materials, and we're really sort of custodians for that.
Yeah, and I think a question that I ask people quite a lot is, what does luxury mean to you? And it means different things to different people depending on what their kind of focus is. So for you, in a luxury piece of furniture, what does that mean for you?
I think it means that people can enjoy and use a piece, and their experience using that piece does not degrade over time. It's not that it doesn't get worse over the years. In fact, it actually improves. And that's just a reflection of how you live with it. And I think there's something luxurious in that, is to be able to like make pieces and engage with pieces that do that.
Do you know, that is always the word that comes up when I ask people, whether it's in our space in Fine Country, in the property market, or in interiors. People always say luxury is an experience. So it's really interesting that, again, you agree with that. Luxury isn't a price point necessarily. Luxury is how something makes you feel. And on that, both Fine Country and yourselves are members of Walpole. So that's the British luxury body. So it really focuses on craftsmanship and keeping things British, doesn't it? So what does your membership mean for you guys here?
Well, we're thrilled to be part of the Walpole Brands of Tomorrow programme, and I think it's important for a lot of these British brands, there's so much heritage within them, for them to be able to have a network and to be able to speak to each other. And as you say, I guess the definition of luxury is quite fluid, and it changes, and so it's nice to be able to discuss that through a network of brands and businesses.
So I think now I'm just about ready to start seeing some of the materials that you use. So we mentioned just then that Walpole obviously champions British craftsmanship, but of course you're going to have to get some of your materials from outside of Britain. So where does your leather come from?
Well, we actually most of our leather does come from within the UK.
Brilliant.
So we use 2 leathers mainly. The first is an oak bark tanned leather that we get from one of the last remaining oak bark tanneries in the world. It's in Devon, called J&F Bakers, and we've got a really good relationship with them. And so we use them on a lot of our baskets and our tables, some of our chairs. That's a leather that takes over a year to make.
Wow.
And so it's incredibly slowly made, but what you get is probably the highest quality, strongest leather that has an amazing range of characteristics that you don't often see. And so we use that, and then we are working with a family-run tannery in Tuscany, and so we make some of our smaller pieces like that. We make some of our bins and tissue boxes and coaster sets. Those are our main leathers we use. And we've also been working with a micro tannery. That's a friend who takes wild deer hides from managed estates and woodlands in the UK and converts that into like a beautiful suede, and we've been using that on some of our day beds. And we're starting to use it in some of our ottomans pieces. Well,
I think it's a very physical thing, isn't it, getting to touch some of these materials. So have you got anything that you can show me now?
Yeah, so I can show you a piece of oak bark.
holding these materials in my hand as well, it's clear that these are natural, and so I guess sometimes it comes with imperfections or kind of, you know, differences in the material. Each batch isn't going to be exactly the same. So how do you define what is an imperfection and what makes it into the piece, and, you know, how do you avoid that, or do you avoid that?
Well, we try to include as much character as we can into the material, but if there's anything that we feel will lead to a lack of like structural integrity, or, you know, is an actual defect in the performance of the piece, we'll obviously cut around it. But what we're dealing with is like incredibly natural material that quite often people have only really witnessed materials that have been corrected in some way. So a lot of the time the leather will have a natural coating on it, or will be embossed to mask imperfections, or it will have had the grain actually fully buffed off, so it's very flat and quite lifeless. And like, these are the kind of leathers that people really more often not come across. So the same thing with the wood, is that we embrace the wild grain and some of the knots and some of the pips, and we work that into the piece, but we're always very considerate of like where that will fit within a piece. And sometimes they can really actually give a lot more character to a piece. To have it, you would think that having like a little blemish or a scar or something like that will detract from it, but quite often, because everything is like very nicely finished and very well made, you're actually adding a bit more life into the piece.
Yeah, I love the word character that you use there, because that's exactly what it is. With a bespoke piece, you want to know that that piece is yours and that there's nothing in the world like it. So having perhaps like a knot in the wood, for example, I think that that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And speaking of these beautiful products, I really want to see some of them kind of in their natural habitat, in the home. So I know that you have staged a few pieces for us in a Fine and Country property just down the road. So we will go and see that very shortly. First, I think if I take a little look around at the workshop, we'll go and see the wood cutting station, did we call it?
Yeah, well, the wood workshop.
Wood workshop. We'll go and see the guys in there. Let these guys get back on with their day, and then we'll go to the property.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Otis.
Cheers.
So here we are at Bressingham Lodge. Now Bressingham Lodge is on the market with Fine and Country for £1.45 million. It's a Grade 2 listed former rectory. It's got so much character. It's built in 1842, and I understand that we have a room staged in here with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We've put some of our furniture and our leather goods in here.
Yeah, should we go and take a look?
Yeah, please.
Fabulous. So like I said, we're here at Bressingham Lodge, and there's so much character here, which, like we mentioned earlier in the workshop, is kind of what some of your pieces are about. So these really are very fitting for this kind of property. So talk me through some of the pieces that we've got in this room here. So let's start with, I guess, what we're sitting on right now.
So we're sitting on a pair of our camber chairs. These are actually in a Scottish elm, which has a really beautiful warm grain and has loads of flowing character through it. And we've kept some of the pip and some of the accents in it as well to give it that kind of richness. And then on that you've got the oak bark that we got out in the workshop.
Yes, you can
so we're sort of suspended by that, and so we actually use two of those. So it's almost like a full hide per chair. And then these are stitched and they've got a canvas underside, and they're double backed.
And I really like the kind of contrasted stitching in the leather, the kind of the white on black. I think it's a really smart design choice. Is it a design choice?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a feature of really the best leather work, and maybe because it's incredibly difficult to do. There's a lot of jeopardy in, stitching in a contrast, so you can't lose any of the mistakes. But really, it's a feature throughout a lot of our pieces. We've got a taper table here, which has got scorched ash that we've got from Norfolk, and so we actually set fire to that top.
It's got texture that I wasn't expecting, actually. Yeah. That's really nice. And
so we burn that away with a blowtorch, and then we scrub all of the burn out, and then we wax it with a natural beeswax. And we've paired that here. This is also oak bark, the sleeve of the table, and so we hand stitch the base and we hand lace that from the same leather. And you can see a lot of the that contrast stitching in some of our other pieces. We've got our ottoman over there, which has got a hand cross stitch on it, and then we've got this burgundy tray here with a bolster tray, and we do something called a butt stitch on that, which is a really traditional leather working stitch.
So what else have we got in this room?
So we've got our log baskets, which again are made out of the oak bark leather, and we've got the quarto basket, which is like a general utility basket. On the top of the ottomans, we've got a valet tray with assembly tray, which is made from vegetable tan leather on our bolster trays. Over here we've got some new baskets that we've got called the Ceron basket, and that's a nice mix of the wood and the leather there. So we've got this hand joined, like dovetailed frame top, and then we've got woven heavy vegetable tan leather. I
really like that weaving of the leather. I don't know if I've seen that before. It's really, really smart. And talking of home, I want to get more into the lifestyle kind of aspect of how these pieces actually work in the home. So first of all, to you, what does home mean to you?
I think home is the ability to live well within your own environment, and an environment that you have like purposefully created.
That's the thing with these, they're purposeful, aren't they? It's not something that you go into a shop and pick up off a shelf. It's something that you have had created with intention, isn't it?
Yeah, we're always making stuff literally for people. So we make to order. And so you're not really coming to us without, you have to have the intention to get something. And then there's so much, I like to think there's so much value put in our work, not in like in a price way, but the values of the craft, the values of the material, the longevity that we've ascribed to it, and these pieces are an investment.
Yeah.
Their price does that as well, but what they represent is like a lifelong purchase that really will just only get better over time.
For sure, yeah. And so talking of curating something in your own home, how do people purchase through you? Do you stock in stores, or is it online? How do people get hold of their very own OTZI products?
Well, so a number of ways. We do have stockists in the UK and overseas, and so we have that for more of the objects. But we have just launched our own web shop where you can buy all of the objects of use.
When you refer to objects, do you mean things like the coasters and the tissue boxes?
Yeah. So some of the smaller pieces, and even up to the baskets as well. Yeah. So that's like our core range, and we'll be adding to that as we develop more pieces over time. And then any of the furniture pieces, people can just come to direct and commission work.
Yeah.
So, and quite often that could be part of an order, whether you'd like to order with some of the objects of use. But it's nice because, as I was saying, because we're quite a small team, we can work really close with people to customise anything.
Well, thank you so much for staging this home for us today and for inviting me to your workshop. I've had a great day getting to see a bit of a day in the life.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to host you, and thanks for letting us stage in this wonderful house.
Thank you. And if you have enjoyed joining us on this episode of Beyond the Property, make sure you subscribe to the Fine Country YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time, where we will be meeting another master of British craftsmanship.